Hi, everyone, and welcome to Meet Ridgeline. I'm Bridget Barrot, Senior Vice President of Customer Experience here at Ridgeline, and I'm thrilled to have you with us. This series brings together leaders across investment management who are driving meaningful change with technology. Each month, we showcase real stories from Ridgeline customers, how they're saying yes to growth, staying lean, and unlocking capacity through the industry's first front-to-back platform with embedded AI. Today, we're excited to be joined by two leaders from Westwood Holding Group, a Dallas-based investment boutique firm founded in 1983. Westwood manages approximately $18.3 billion across high-conviction equity and outcome-oriented strategies, delivered through separate accounts, mutual funds, ETFs, and pooled vehicles. The firm's women-founded heritage brought employee ownership and client-first, risk-aware culture continued to shape its long-term approach. Today, we're joined by Fabian Gomez, President and Chief Operating Officer of Westwood Holding Group. Fabian has been with Westwood since 2015 and oversees enterprise services and distribution. His career spans senior roles at firms including Nuveen, Morgan Stanley Investment Management, Van Kempen, McDonald Investment Management, and Invesco, where he led global equity and alternative technology. He brings deep expertise to the intersection of investment operations, technology, and client experience. Alongside him is Shaun Neumann, Managing Director, Operations and Trading at Westwood Holdings Group. Shaun oversees day-to-day operations and trading and was a key partner throughout Westwood's evaluation and implementation of Ridgeline. He brings a practical, desk-level perspective on workflows, scale, and how technology translates into real efficiency and improved growth. Fabian, Shaun, we're so glad to have you with us today.
Thank you, Bridget.
Yeah, glad to be with you.
Great. Now, you've been live on Ridgeline for just about a month now, but we're going to do a little bit of a rewind and start at the beginning. So looking back, what are some of the challenges and limitations that were driving your search for a new solution?
For us, it's a little complicated. We have been looking with a existing partner to build a true holistic front-to-back platform, and we were not successful, to be very candid and keep it very short. So I had heard about Ridgeline out there, and so we said we needed to really look to see if there really was a solution to help us get to that end state that we wanted for our business. Because candidly, if we weren't going to find the answer, then we were seriously considering outsourcing in general as an alternative solution. Thankfully, that was the case. So we did a very thorough search. I spent a lot of time specifically with Ridgeline, and we like what we saw.
Great. And you mentioned Ridgeline first coming on your radar. So I always love hearing those stories about how people found Ridgeline. So maybe you could talk a little bit about, how you were first introduced to Ridgeline.
Yeah. So shortly after we'd gone live with our previous platform, I started to hear some noises about this firm out in the West in Nevada that was hiring a lot of subject matter experts from Charles River, Eagle, Advent, our SS&C in general. And, they were starting to build out this front to back platform. And there was a consulting firm I'd done quite a bit of business with who said, you really should check these guys out. This is truly different. This is not something we've seen before. It's not like the firms that have come out of the Northeast, the normal tech hubs for financial services. This was truly a unique and different approach toward building out a platform for our industry.
And we believe that was Lisa at Cutter, so we're going to have to remember to thank her for that introduction to you. So as you started to explore some of your options, what about Ridgeline's approach and philosophy really stood out to you compared to other things out in the market?
So, I've, for better or worse, I've been around for quite some time back in the early days when Charles River was just getting started, Eagle Investments was just getting started. Back in the day when there was a firm called Predator, is now long gone. And it became part of Marin in the day. And most of these shops started out with software and then a partner to help them build the software as they went along. And so in many ways, for example, Charles River started out as a compliance engine that eventually evolved into a complete middle office platform. Eagle started out as a database platform that then evolved out into a middle office platform. And the same can be said about a lot of the products out there that SS&C cobbled together over the years at Advent, et cetera, at Geneva. So what was very unique and what I found interesting here was this was a true holistic approach to solve a problem for our industry without any concern about where the next dollar was going to come from. Because there was a significant commitment, obviously, from Dave Duffield and in the family office to essentially commit whatever was necessary to make this a success without the dependency of saying, we've got to pay the bills. And ultimately, with a lot of these founders, find some kind of liquidity event to move forward on what happened. Because inevitably, with all these software shops, they get bought out, and I'm talking about traditional ones out of the East Coast. Because like I still remember the good old days of Predator back in the 90s. These were a bunch of smart kids out of MIT. They built the software, they sold it, was gone, and then you've never heard from them since. This was a very unique, very different approach, and it was very intriguing because, candidly, if I had the money, this is the way I would have done it if I was given this problem to solve. So it was intriguing and novel, but also I thought, wow, this is the right way to do this if you can do it.
It's incredibly validating that you said that this is the way that you would do it. And I think we feel very lucky that we have the ability to start with this blank sheet of paper and really build Ridgeline how we think it should be built. When you think about, comparing some of the specific gaps that you were trying to address when you were looking out there in your evaluation process and comparing us to other vendors, what are some of the things that you were trying to address and make sure that during the evaluation that Ridgeline covered?
Well, the big things obviously is to solve our overall business, issues, right? Making sure we were going to get something that was going to not only meet our needs for today, but our needs for tomorrow. Solid ownership or investment from, the parent, which in this case, was very firm. And we did spend quite a bit of time as, I'm sure Dave and Mike and Dave, well, both Daves, Mike and Jack will attest to that we spent a lot of time asking a lot of questions about what is the commitment here, what happens in the event of any type of situation to make sure that this entity and this initiative is fully funded through to the end, or until what we viewed as the end is getting it to this final product. So that was going to be very critical for us. And then as well, just to see do you have the subject matter expertise and the execution approach to getting these things done? Um, I've said this before, I'll say it again, the one thing that I think Ridgeline has done very well is they've attracted a lot of talent from all around the United States and outside the United States now as you start to expand beyond US borders. And that's been impressive. People who I've known at other organizations have come over. I think that speaks volumes to the commitment and to the vision that Ridgeline's laid out for itself. And then the execution approach, again, you very early on, and I think this comes from that Silicon Valley approach that the Ridgeline team brought from the West Coast, which was to partner with key people and not try and do everything for everyone and really figure out what you needed to focus on and then bring in and augment with partners your implementation process, which I know in our case has been very significant because again, Cutter was on board and Cutter's someone I've been working with for well over 25 years. So very, very promising, or candidly for me to see that you were making those decisions early on and not trying to scrape for every possible dollar from your clients yourselves, but to bring in people to help you and augment staff as necessary.
And Fabian, you bring up a really good point that there is a complexity to your business, and you have been talking to us for quite some time now. So when you think back and the way that the product looked when you first started talking to us versus how it looks now, what gave you the confidence that Ridgeline could support your business?
Well, again, a lot of it came down to the people, and I think is people in the industry know me, I'm definitely a people person. And, if I know people and I take them at their word, I know they're going to execute. Um, I saw a lot of things in the Ridgeline product early on that I thought were very intrigued, were again, was very intriguing because it was built the very holistic vision and with the end in mind. That you weren't just trying to build a compliance engine. You weren't just trying to build a trading system. You weren't just trying to build an accounting platform or a reconciliation platform, but that you're trying to do this all together. And how do you knit this all together from the get-go, which is making sure that you made that commitment to the foundation first and foremost, irrespective. I don't want to say irrespective of the cost, because obviously you've got to have some cost controls, but doing it right, and getting that first part done right. And that was very pleasing for me to see. and give me a lot more confidence in your ability to be able to execute on things down the road. And mainly building in things for the future like the AI. You all were building AI in before people really were talking about it to the extent they're talking about it today.
Yeah, and we'll definitely touch on that a little bit later. But I'd love to hear from Shaun because Shaun, I know one of the things that was really important to you early on was the roadmap. So we might not have had everything that you needed at the time, but maybe you could talk a little bit about what gave you the confidence that we were going to be able to build what you needed.
Yeah, so for me, we spent over a year in due diligence from the time that we first were introduced to Ridgeline and when we made the decision to move forward and based on prior experiences, etc. It was following the roadmap. So for a firm like us, we are not simple. We've got derivatives, we've got international exposure, we've got other things that had been challenges to support before that. And the roadmap that was laid out by Ridgeline was organized, it was ambitious, and it was something that when I looked at, I wasn't sure that you'd be able to deliver on, but Ridgeline delivered on, in spades. And so we monitored that very closely for over a year. And every time we would meet and see the progress that was being made, it just gave us more and more confidence that that was the right decision for us.
That's great. And this is certainly a partnership. And I think when we think about how we've been able to partner together, I think cultural alignment is important. And the way that, you all have delivered for your customers is similar to the way that we look at customers as well. So how did this play into, the people at Ridgeline and our relationship play into the ultimate decision that you all made to move forward with Ridgeline?
Yeah, I'd say we hit it off from day one. So, having Ridgeline on site in the early days, having those high level discussions. But like Fabian said, seeing that Ridgeline was doing things the right way, the way that we would do it if we could just wave a magic wand. Historically, we've also been the type of firm that we're not just seeking a vendor, we're seeking a partner. So we want to work with that partner to develop a product that's mutually beneficial for us and for your other clients. So we saw that early on with Ridgeline, and we've built a great relationship since. And we're looking forward um, to working to make Ridgeline fantastic for us and for everyone.
And we appreciate all the feedback that we've received to date and excited about continuing to get that from the Westwood team moving forward. So at this point, we've gotten through the evaluation. You've known that you wanted to move forward with Ridgeline, but then we get into the implementation. And as we know, Fabian, I'm sure you can attest to this. You've been through a ton of implementations before in the past, not always successful. But when you think back to, kicking things off with Ridgeline and starting the implementation, how did you make sure that you set yourself and your team up for success?
We wanted to make sure we had everybody committed to working on this. And, 'cause we knew just like with any big project, when you, especially as a smaller firm, you don't have a dedicated project team. You knew people were going to be doing double duty work on our side of the fence in terms of our implementation. So we did bring in, some outside resource where we could to augment. So, and then obviously you all brought people to bear as well, including, some people at Cutter, so I think that gave us comfort, right? That, we had the right people and, the fact that you all have always been very, very, I don't say conservative, but realistic with timelines and efforts, the things that need to be done. Candidly, it was somewhat novel to have a vendor push back on us saying, we don't know if we can deliver that. And when the time's on, you're suggesting, but what about this, and this? So having honest conversations about what we could be done. And we did push to accelerate by a month because, like I said, with our existing platform, which was, unfortunately, we did have a bit of a timeline that we needed to be finished by, and so we wanted to have some extra wiggle room just in case, and we did it. I mean, we got in within 9 months, which, candidly, I'm still somewhat, you know, touching wood, making sure we didn't miss something, but it seems like everything's working well. That's impressive. I mean, nothing usually takes less than 12 to 18 months with these types of, be very blunt with these types of implementations because you're ripping out the entire middle office. So that's not trivial. It's fairly significant in terms of what you're doing and replacing it. And, I think the teams work together very well. And again, there was a lot of good honesty. So we knew where we stood and, we built in some contingency. Thankfully, we didn't need it. And then, from a cost perspective, I've never seen a project, even at a firm our size, do this in not just the amount of time we did, but also as efficiently. So there's always that magic triangle of quality, time, and money. You can only get two, and not all three. I think we did a pretty good job with all three.
Great. And maybe just to hit that point a little bit harder, we were able to pull in the timeline by a month. So if you look back, our original timeline wouldn't have even had us live at this point. And you mentioned this, but we came in under budget. So maybe you could just double click on that because that's obviously not something that you typically see from implementation. So I'd love to hear anything else you're willing to share on how we were able to accomplish that.
We came in significantly under budget by about 30%, which is not common, not in this industry, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'd say that, we had full commitment from both sides. And to Fabian's point, we had a lot of communication. We were able to early on identify, based on the roadmap, where are the potential items that we need to really push on. So we got that commitment from Ridgeline. Everything, as per usual, was delivered on time or ahead of time, kept us on schedule the whole way, allowed us to go live early. And we were able to coordinate and do most of the work virtually. So you obviously can save a significant amount of cost if you can do that. There were a lot of meetings, but they were all time well spent.
Yeah, I mean, look, you guys, to your credit, Bridget, and I know Dave Blair gave me a hard time about it at one point. I saw him. I think I gave you guys initially when we first started talking about it was under 1,000, but it was well over 700 question RFP to fill out. And so I know Dave said, "Are you really going to be doing these kind of derivative?" I said, "No, but I just want to know if you guys are going to do that."
Yeah. Well, we appreciate it. You push us to be better every single day, Fabian, and we are very grateful for that, for helping us continue to serve Westwood, but also all of our customers and continue to build a product that scales. So thank you for that, and thank you for the partnership. I think when we think a little bit about the implementation and what we were able to accomplish, one of the other things that we hear from customers is that, we don't just want to replace what we had been doing previously. This isn't a copy and paste into a new system because what's the point of doing that? We really want to replace what you'd been doing in the past. So maybe you could talk a little bit about how you use this as an opportunity to truly modernize the way that you were doing things rather than just a copy and paste from your previous systems.
John, I'll let you take that one.
Sure. So for us, it really is just approaching the project with that mindset. And we know that Ridgeline offers more than what we're even utilizing right now. And we're new on the platform. So there are things that we're really looking forward to utilizing more, being workflows, AI, and what's to come with AI. So again, it's putting that in front of the team and letting the team understand the big picture of what Ridgeline is and what Ridgeline strives to be, and thinking about it kind of backwards of, what do we need to do today to set us up to be able to utilize all of that down the road? And again, I think that was a big reason why we had the success that we did for the implementation, because our team's excited to use it, and we're looking forward to taking advantage of these tools and thinking about things in a way we just historically haven't.
It's great. And we thank you for the partnership during the implementation as well. We know it's never easy, but I think having that commitment on both ends really allowed us to keep things under budget and escalate timelines. So, super excited and happy about the way things ended up. Now we are live. So, I would love to transition a little bit into how things have been since we've gone live. We're about a month live on the system. So, Shaun, maybe you could talk a little bit about the value that you're already getting from Ridgeline.
Yeah, definitely. So we went live, and we beforehand had a few items that we knew that we were still going to be working on post go live. But outside of that, I'd say that the early returns are that we are Um, we're very much enjoying what we've got. We're still working hard, but things like real time updates of the system. So we don't have to process manual refreshes or request them. Swaps, futures, those types of derivatives aren't something that we had prior to now that worked well. And so far in Ridgeline, they're working very well. Performance is calculating correctly, et cetera. So even more of the complex things are meeting or beating our expectations. And then Ridgeline has weekly releases, so there are new updates being pushed out, new offerings, etc. And it's the whole client base that's contributing to that. And we're seeing that pay off in a very short period of time already.
Great. And we're excited about continuing to hear feedback from all of you and what we want to see next and how we can work that into our roadmap. When you think about overall adoption and enthusiasm across the team, how has that been going so far? Again, I know it's only been a month, but anything you can share as far as how people are feeling now that they're in the tool every day?
Yeah, like I said, I think that there's a level of excitement and wanting to use the fancy tools, right? Being able to go in and write reports that are you know exactly what we need, customize those, set up workflows, etc. We're early on here, so we're investing in doing a lot of that work to that is going to be essentially one-time work, but it's time well spent to invest now that's going to pay off down the road and set us up for all those efficiencies we've been talking about. And that's the fun stuff. So we've done a lot of the hard work now and we're getting to more of the fun stuff.
Yeah, certainly looking forward to that fun stuff. And when you think about the roadmap and the continuous innovation, so you mentioned weekly releases every Friday. What are you most excited about as you sort of look towards the future? What are you and the team most excited to see?
Well, first of all, it's the unified approach of, Ridgeline is doing multiple components and it's all in one ecosystem, so we know it's going to work. But secondly, then you can layer on the added bells and whistles with AI being obviously the biggest one in my opinion, and what's to come down the road there. But even from a very simplistic standpoint, with an AI assistant built into the platform, for example, we have a user who is not one of our operations users, who has not been involved in the project up until we went live, and user needed to go in and access and pull some reports, has never really even logged in before, and was able to go in and using AI and just really the intuitive nature of the platform, was able to self-serve and get exactly what she needed with no trading whatsoever. So that's just a testament of it's a system that can work for everyone, and there's a use case for everyone. So that's exciting.
So you mentioned AI. I know, Fabian, you mentioned AI at the start as well. Obviously, this is something that we're heavily leaning into. When you think about opportunities for workflows or improvements, what are you most excited about, or where would you like to see improvements using AI?
I'll go first and I'll let Shaun chime in. Look, at the end of the day, if whatever we can do to arm our operations, because we run, it's like a lot of people, we run fairly lean. Anything we can do to return capacity to our operations staff is going to be very welcome. So having a system that's intuitive, that's helping you versus hindering you to get your job done faster and with a higher level of quality is something I'm definitely looking.
Yeah, agreed. The future of what agents can do, I think, is very exciting. But also just the future of what humans can do with the power of AI, and knowing that they have that at their fingertips and being able to use that in a way that works for them. I think it it it's a must-have in this day and age, and we're glad that it's built in and ready to roll for us.
Yeah. It's not so much about replacing the humans as making us far more effective in the work that we're doing. So I'm happy that you
Exactly.
that. Yeah. Okay, last question for both of you. Obviously there's a lot of people out there that are considering the move to Ridgeline. It's a big decision to be made. What advice would you share with anyone that out there that is considering making the move?
I think obviously do your due diligence. really make sure that you kick all the tires and that you get comfortable with working with any new firm. I think just the typical thing. I think focus on the future as well, and what Ridgeline's trying to build, and just make sure that that dovetails into what you're trying to do as a firm as well.
Shaun,
Yeah,
anything?
I'd say the same. And again, go into it with a partner mentality, and identify what your needs are. The sky's the limit at this point, so let's all work collectively and make a product that is going to work for everyone and benefit everyone. And that's, I think, what Ridgeline is all about, and that's great.
Well, we really appreciate it. Thank you both so much for sharing a thoughtful and transparent look at your journey with Ridgeline, from evaluation to implementation to the early results and what's ahead. Your insights in partnership, modernization, continuous innovation, and the role of AI highlight exactly why this community matters. And for everyone joining us today, we hope this conversation helps you to see what's possible when firms commit to transforming their operating environment. Thank you for spending time with us. Have a great rest of your day, and we hope to see you at the next Meet Ridgeline session. Thank you.